In today's fast-evolving digital landscape, cyberattacks are becoming more frequent, sophisticated, and damaging. Every day, businesses face an array of cyber threats, including data breaches, financial losses, and the compromise of sensitive information. As organizations adopt digital transformation through cloud services, remote work models, and Internet of Things (IoT) technologies, they inadvertently expose themselves to new vulnerabilities. Traditional security models, focused primarily on perimeter defense, are no longer sufficient to combat modern cyber threats. Zero Trust Security (ZTS) offers a more dynamic, robust, and comprehensive approach, focusing on continuously verifying access, regardless of where it originates. This article explores Zero Trust in depth, explaining its core principles, benefits, challenges, and best practices. The concept of Zero Trust Security. Zero Trust Security is built on a simple yet crucial principle: never trust, always verify. Unlike traditional security models that automatically trust internal users and devices, Zero Trust assumes that every user, device, and application, whether inside or outside the network, could be compromised. In a Zero Trust architecture, access is never implicitly granted. Instead, it requires continuous verification of identity, device health, and contextual data for each access attempt throughout the entire session. In traditional security models, once a user or device is granted access to the network, often via a username and password, they are automatically trusted for the duration of their session. This approach is problematic because attackers can exploit even a single entry point to infiltrate the network and move laterally across systems. Zero Trust minimizes these risks by continuously authenticating users and devices, ensuring they remain trustworthy throughout the entire session, rather than assuming trust once access is granted. Why traditional security models fail. Traditional security models are designed around the idea that threats primarily come from external sources. This is the so-called castle and moat model, where the perimeter of the organization's network is heavily defended with firewalls, intrusion detection systems, and other boundary-focused security tools. However, once an attacker breaches the perimeter, through phishing, malware, or other means, they can move freely within the network, accessing internal systems and sensitive data without further scrutiny. This model worked well when networks were confined to well-defined physical boundaries and had limited digital infrastructure. But with the rise of cloud computing, remote work, and mobile devices, the network perimeter is no longer a reliable defense. Users, devices, and applications now operate outside the traditional perimeter. Attackers, too, can infiltrate the network from anywhere, rendering the traditional model ineffective. Consider the example of a company relying on internal servers to store customer data. If an attacker compromises an employee's device, bypassing perimeter security measures, they could easily move laterally within the network and access sensitive information. In a traditional security model, the attacker may gain access without triggering any alarms, as the system assumes all internal traffic is trusted. In contrast, Zero Trust continuously verifies access attempts, ensuring that the attacker cannot gain unauthorized access, even if they are within the network. Core principles of Zero Trust. Zero Trust operates on several fundamental principles that are designed to reduce risk and strengthen overall network security. These core principles include continuous identity verification, least privilege access, microsegmentation, and constant monitoring. 1. Continuous identity verification. One of the cornerstones of Zero Trust is the requirement for continuous identity verification. In traditional security models, once a user logs in and gains access to a network, they are implicitly trusted until their session expires. Zero Trust, however, treats trust as dynamic and continuously reevaluated. Authentication and authorization checks occur throughout the user's session, ensuring that access is granted only as long as the user remains verified. For example, a user might log into a system in the morning and access certain documents. In traditional systems, their credentials would grant them access throughout the entire workday, even if their account was later compromised. In a Zero Trust model, however, Their actions would be consistently monitored and verified. If any suspicious behavior or potential compromise is detected, their access could be revoked or additional verification measures, such as multi-factor authentication (MFA), could be triggered. 2. Least privilege access. Zero Trust is built on the principle of least privilege access, which ensures that users and devices only have access to the minimum resources necessary to perform their job functions. Traditional models often grant employees broader access than they need, increasing the risk that a compromised account could be exploited to access critical data or systems. Zero Trust mitigates this risk by implementing role-based access control, RBAC, or attribute-based access control, ABAC. These models limit user access to only the resources required for their role. For example, an employee in the finance department may not need access to the company's human resources data, and Zero Trust would enforce this restriction. By enforcing least privilege access, Zero Trust minimizes the exposure of critical systems and data, making it more difficult for attackers to escalate their privileges and gain access to sensitive information. 3. Microsegmentation. Microsegmentation refers to the practice of dividing a network into smaller, isolated segments, each with its own security policies and controls. Rather than relying on a single, broad network perimeter, Zero Trust creates multiple zones based on function, risk, or sensitivity. Each zone has its own security measures, making it much harder for attackers to move laterally across the network if they compromise one segment. In traditional security models, once an attacker infiltrates the network, they can often access multiple systems without facing significant obstacles. Microsegmentation limits this risk by restricting access to individual segments, so if an attacker compromises one area, they cannot move freely to other segments without further authentication. Microsegmentation is especially important in cloud environments and hybrid work infrastructures, where diverse and dynamic IT ecosystems are in place. For example, an attacker who compromises a device in one department would not be able to access another department's sensitive data without passing through additional security layers. 4. Constant monitoring and analytics. Zero Trust places significant emphasis on real-time monitoring and analysis of user behavior. Traditional security models focus primarily on perimeter defenses and often fail to monitor activity once users have gained access. Zero Trust, on the other hand, continuously tracks user behavior and network activity, detecting any abnormal or suspicious actions. Behavioral analytics and user entity behavior analytics (UBA) are critical components of Zero Trust architectures. These tools analyze current actions against a baseline of normal behavior, flagging anomalies that could indicate malicious activity. For instance, if a user who typically works from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. suddenly accesses sensitive data at 2 a.m., this could trigger an alert, prompting further investigation. Continuous monitoring ensures that even small deviations from normal activity are quickly detected. Allowing security teams to respond before an attack can escalate into a full-blown breach. Benefits of Zero Trust. Zero Trust offers several key advantages over traditional security models, making it especially well-suited for modern organizations. 1. Enhanced protection against internal and external threats. By verifying the identity and device health of all users, Zero Trust offers better protection against both internal and external threats. Even if an attacker manages to gain access through a compromised device or user, Zero Trust limits their ability to move laterally across the network. This reduces the impact of a potential breach. 2. Better compliance and data protection. Zero Trust simplifies compliance with regulatory requirements, such as GDPR, HIPAA, and PCI DSS, which mandate strict data protection protocols. By ensuring that access to sensitive information is continuously monitored and tightly controlled, Zero Trust helps organizations meet these compliance standards. Furthermore, the ability to log all access attempts facilitates easier auditing. 3. Adaptability to remote work and cloud environments. Zero Trust is ideally suited to the realities of remote work, cloud computing, and bring your own device (BYOD) Policies. Traditional security models trust users within the perimeter, but fail to apply the same level of scrutiny to remote users or devices. Zero Trust, however, ensures that all users, whether remote or on-site, are subject to the same verification processes. 4. Reduced attack surface. By enforcing least privilege access and microsegmentation, Zero Trust significantly reduces the attack surface. Every user, device, and application is authenticated and authorized before gaining access to resources, which makes it harder for attackers to gain access to critical data or systems. Even if an attacker compromises one segment, they cannot move freely throughout the entire network. Challenges in implementing Zero Trust. Despite its advantages, implementing Zero Trust is not without its challenges. 1. High initial costs. Zero Trust requires significant investment in new technologies, such as identity and access management (IAM) systems, multi-factor authentication (MFA), microsegmentation tools, and continuous monitoring solutions. These upfront costs can be a barrier for small and mid-sized businesses, though they may ultimately pay off in reduced security incidents. 2. Integration complexity. Integrating Zero Trust into existing IT infrastructures, especially legacy systems, can be complex and time-consuming. Organizations must ensure that Zero Trust principles are applied consistently across all applications, endpoints, and network segments. This may require customized solutions or external consulting services. The future of Zero Trust. As organizations continue to embrace digital transformation, Zero Trust is becoming the gold standard for cybersecurity. With the increasing adoption of cloud technologies, remote work, and IoT devices, traditional perimeter-based defenses are no longer enough to protect against modern cyber threats. Zero Trust offers a flexible, adaptive security model that can scale to meet the growing complexity of digital environments. Zero Trust represents a fundamental shift in cybersecurity strategy. By continuously verifying users and devices, enforcing least privilege access, and using microsegmentation and behavioral analytics, Zero Trust provides a robust framework to safeguard digital assets. In today's world of evolving cyber threats, adopting a Zero Trust model is more than just an option. It is a necessity. With thoughtful planning and the right tools, organizations can build a resilient, future-proof security strategy to protect their most valuable asset.